What happens when a CEO decides to stack shelves at his own bookstore and stumbles across a hidden betrayal? Xavier Ellington tightened the worn baseball cap over his messy brown hair and stepped into the front doors of his own bookstore, store number 12 out of 17. He had opened the first one from scratch 15 years ago, selling secondhand novels out of a tiny shop with a leaky roof. Now it was a well-known chain, but lately he'd been feeling too distant from the ground floor. Customer complaints had risen, but none pointed to anything specific. He needed to see for himself. He wore thick-rimmed glasses, a faded hoodie, and ripped jeans. He even grew out a scruffy beard over 2 months just for this. No one in this store had met him face to face. Most of the hiring was handled by district managers, easy to blend in. The bookstore buzzed with quiet energy. A few customers browsed the cozy aisles. Soft indie music floated through the speakers. A woman with a name tag that read Emily H. walked up, a clipboard in hand. "You must be the new guy, Zane?" she asked, smiling. "Yeah," Xavier replied, using the alias they'd set up. "All right, we're a little short today. 2 people called out sick. Happens a lot during flu season," she added with a sigh. "I'll have you shadow me for a bit, then we'll split up." "Sounds good," Xavier said, following her past displays of colorful hardcovers and leather-bound classics. Emily was quick, sharp, and kind with customers. She explained things clearly and didn't cut corners. Xavier liked her right away. After an hour of stocking and tidying, Emily handed him a stack of rare books that had just come in. "Take these to the rare editions shelf," she said. "Be careful, some of these are worth hundreds." As he carried the precious stack, a man in a pressed sweater vest intercepted him. His name tag read Manager Austin. "Hold up," Austin said, eyeing the books. "Let me see those." Xavier handed them over. Austin flipped through the titles quickly, then muttered, "No way we're putting these out at regular price." He yanked a Sharpie from his pocket and scribbled new price stickers, triple the original amounts. Xavier blinked. Emily said, "Emily doesn't run this store," Austin cut him off. His voice dropped lower. "Listen, newbie, customers that come for rare editions, they got money. They won't blink at a few extra bucks. We hit numbers, we get bonuses. You want to keep this job, you do what I say." Xavier nodded slowly, hiding the burn growing in his chest. "Good. Now go shelve them," Austin said, shoving the stack back into Xavier's arms and striding off like he hadn't just robbed someone. Xavier shelved the books, heart pounding. He couldn't believe what he just saw. The day dragged on with Xavier watching closely. Austin barked at a teenage cashier for taking too long with a customer. He blamed Emily for a missing shipment that wasn't her fault. He even bragged to another employee, a tired-looking college kid named Nate, about milking the rich folks. By evening, Xavier was exhausted and furious. But he needed to be sure. Maybe Austin was just having a bad day. Maybe there was more to it. When the store closed, Xavier helped Emily lock up. She looked drained but still smiled at him. "You did good today, Zane," she said. Most new hires don't last a week with Austin breathing down their neck. "Thanks," Xavier said. "Is he always like that?" Emily hesitated, then shrugged. "It's been worse lately, sales pressure. He thinks if we squeeze customers harder, it'll save the numbers." Xavier nodded, saying nothing. Inside, he made a decision. He'd come back tomorrow. He needed to see more before he made his move. Because if Austin was stealing trust from their customers to line his pockets, Xavier was going to tear it all down himself. Xavier arrived early the next morning, the bookstore still cloaked in that quiet, sleepy stillness before the first customers trickled in. He found Emily unlocking the side door, her eyes shadowed with fatigue. "Morning," he offered as he stepped inside. "Hey, Zane," she said, voice worn thin. "You're here early." "Figured I'd get a head start," he said, setting his backpack down behind the counter. Emily handed him a clipboard. "Inventory audit today. We're supposed to check the rare editions and the new releases." Austin's breathing fire about missing stock. Xavier nodded, taking the list. He noticed the slight tremor in her hand as she passed it over. Something else was weighing on her, but she didn't say it. By mid-morning, the store was humming with life. Customers browsed the shelves. A woman in a navy blazer asked for help finding a vintage poetry collection. Xavier helped her search, grateful for the distraction from the gnawing anger still simmering under his calm exterior. As he knelt by a low shelf stacking hardcovers, he caught a sharp voice from the front. "You took too long at break again," Austin said, voice slicing across the quiet like a blade. "I only took 15 minutes, Nate replied, shoulders stiff as he stood behind the register. 15 minutes, 20 minutes, doesn't matter. Every second you're not selling, you're costing me money," Austin snapped. The woman at the counter, waiting to pay, shifted uncomfortably. Xavier rose slowly, shelving forgotten, and watched from a distance. Nate muttered something under his breath. "What was that?" Austin demanded, stepping closer. "I said it's not fair to blame me for slow traffic," Nate said, louder, cheeks flushing. "You know mornings are dead." Austin leaned in, voice low but audible. "You think fairness keeps the lights on, college boy, think again." The woman abandoned her purchase and left, the door chiming behind her. Austin turned without missing a beat. "Nate, you owe me that sale. You're staying after close tonight to restock the bargain bins." "But I have class," Nate protested. "Not my problem," Austin said, already striding away. Xavier clenched his fists, forcing himself to breathe. He couldn't intervene yet, not without blowing his cover before he had the full picture. Later, while shelving a new shipment, Xavier overheard two employees whispering near the back storage room. "Did you hear?" one said. "Austin's been pocketing the difference from the rare books." "No way," the other replied. "How? He jacks up the prices, sells them off books, then rings up cheaper ones through the system." Xavier ducked behind a tall stack of boxes, heart hammering. This was worse than he thought. It wasn't just overpricing, it was outright theft. At lunch, Xavier sat with Emily in the cramped break room, eating a sandwich he barely tasted. "Emily," he said carefully, "has anyone ever said anything about how Austin handles money?" She stiffened, glancing at the door. "You have to be careful what you say," she said quietly. "There were complaints. Corporate asked questions months ago. After that, 2 people got transferred out, good people. It just got worse after they left." "Why stay?" Xavier asked. She looked down at her hands. "I love the books. I love helping people find something that changes their whole day. And I need the job. My mom's medical bills are piling up." Xavier swallowed hard. He couldn't tell her yet, but he would not let her loyalty be betrayed like this. The afternoon dragged. Xavier watched Austin schmooze a customer buying a collector's edition, lying about its rarity. He watched Nate work through his break without complaint, shelving heavy boxes with a grin set to his jaw. He watched Emily gently guide an elderly man to the right section, even as her own manager ignored her efforts entirely. At closing time, Xavier volunteered to help Nate with the bargain bins. "You don't have to," Nate said, wiping sweat from his brow. "I don't mind," Xavier said. Besides, 2 pairs of hands are faster than one. Under the fluorescent lights, they worked in awkward silence until Nate finally spoke. "You're new, you don't get it yet, Austin. He's untouchable. His numbers look good on paper, that's all that matters upstairs." "What about the customers?" "The staff?" Xavier asked, stacking a pile of battered cookbooks. Nate laughed bitterly. "Doesn't matter. As long as the sales targets are hit, no one cares." Xavier didn't reply. He couldn't, not yet. When they finished, Austin sauntered over, clapping Nate on the shoulder hard enough to make him stumble. "See, hard work pays off," Austin said, grinning in a way that made Xavier's skin crawl. Nate muttered goodnight and left, face drawn and tired. Austin turned to Xavier. "You're all right, Zane. Keep your head down, do what you're told, and you'll go far." Xavier forced a tight smile. "Thanks." As he left the store that night, he looked back once. The lights inside flickered as Emily locked the door behind her, shoulders bowed under an invisible weight. Xavier walked to his car, emotions churning. He had seen enough. Tomorrow he would come back, not as Zane the new hire, but as Xavier Ellington, the man who had built this company from nothing. And he was bringing consequences with him. Xavier stood just inside the bookstore's entrance, the morning sun slanting through the windows. He wore a crisp navy blazer over a white shirt, his beard neatly trimmed, the baseball cap and hoodie gone. Employees bustled around, prepping for opening, none recognizing him yet. He spotted Emily shelving new releases, tight-lipped but efficient, and Nate adjusting displays near the cash registers, his eyes rimmed red from lack of sleep. Austin stood near the cafe counter, laughing loudly with a part-time cashier who looked uneasy under his gaze. Xavier didn't waste time. He stepped into the center of the floor, clapped his hands twice to draw attention, and said, "Good morning, everyone. My name is Xavier Ellington. I own this company." The room froze. Emily dropped the book she was holding. Nate straightened sharply, confusion flashing across his face. Austin's laughter caught in his throat, his smile faltering. Xavier let the silence stretch a few heartbeats longer, then continued, his voice calm but firm. "I've been working undercover in this store over the past 2 days. I saw behaviors that contradict everything this company stands for. I'm here to address them." Austin recovered first, striding forward with a forced chuckle. "Mr. Ellington, sir, this is a surprise. If you'd warned me you were coming, I didn't want you to know," Xavier interrupted, eyes steady. "I needed to see the truth." Austin shifted, his confident facade cracking. Xavier turned to the employees gathered around. "Emily, Nate, everyone here deserves to hear this." He gestured toward the rare editions section. "Yesterday, I watched as rare books were deliberately overpriced without authorization. Customers were misled, trust was broken." Several employees exchanged glances. Emily's hands twisted the hem of her sweater, but she kept her gaze fixed on Xavier. "And that's not all," Xavier continued. Employees were berated publicly, pressured to work off the clock, treated as disposable instead of valued. Austin's face flushed. "Sir, you have to understand sales targets have been slipping. I had to get creative. We're under pressure to perform." Xavier looked at him steadily. "There's nothing creative about theft and mistreatment." Austin opened his mouth again, but Xavier cut him off. "You're dismissed, effective immediately. Security will escort you out. Final paycheck will be mailed after a full audit." Austin's mouth worked soundlessly for a second before he turned on his heel and stormed toward the back office, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. Xavier let out a slow breath, then turned back to the stunned employees. "This store deserves better leadership, and starting today, you'll have it." A ripple of uncertainty moved through the group. No one spoke. Xavier motioned for Emily to step forward. "You've kept this place running with integrity despite impossible circumstances." "I saw it firsthand." Emily blinked rapidly, struggling to find words. "I'm promoting you to interim store manager," Xavier said. "Effective immediately, full pay adjustment, full managerial authority." Her mouth parted in shock. I don't even know what to say." "Say yes," Xavier said simply. "Yes," she breathed, chest rising and falling quickly. He turned to Nate next. "You shouldn't have been punished for doing your job. That ends now. You'll be given a proper schedule that respects your class commitments. No more forced overtime, no more threats." Nate nodded, swallowing hard. Xavier faced the group again. "We're bringing in an audit team today. Every rare book will be checked. Every customer overcharged will be contacted and refunded. Full transparency, no exceptions." A middle-aged woman who had been quietly shelving travel guides raised her hand hesitantly. "Will the store close during the audit?" "No," Xavier said. "We owe our customers better, but we also owe you your hours. We'll stay open. The audit team will work around you. Any disruption will be kept minimal." She nodded, relief softening her features. Xavier saw the question in several employees' eyes before anyone dared voice it. "What about corporate?" Nate finally asked. "Will they actually care?" Xavier's voice dropped, steady and sure. "I'm corporate. And I care. I built this company on trust and love for books, not greed. From now on, every store will have direct lines to my office. No more layers of bureaucracy hiding problems." He spotted a young woman near the bargain section, fidgeting with a clipboard. "You had something to say." he asked gently. She stepped forward, voice trembling slightly. We've been short-staffed for months. When people quit, they weren't replaced. We've been covering double shifts without extra help. Xavier nodded once. Starting today, Emily will have full authority to hire additional staff, no approvals needed. We'll also authorize overtime pay until staffing is stabilized. No one will be expected to do 2 jobs for 1 paycheck. The young woman's shoulders sagged in visible relief. Xavier glanced around, seeing the tension slowly ease from the group. Hope replaced suspicion in their eyes. He wasn't finished. Customer experience will be audited weekly for the next 3 months, he said. Not to catch you doing something wrong, but to catch problems early and fix them. You're not alone in this anymore. Emily stepped forward, voice firm despite the emotion thickening it. Thank you, we want to make this place better. We needed someone to care. Xavier met her gaze. You have that now. A soft murmur of agreement rippled through the employees. Xavier checked the time. The store was due to open in 10 minutes. Today's going to be messy, he said. Audit team's already on the way. There'll be questions. Probably a few angry customers when they find out about the overpricing, but we face it head on. No excuses, no cover-ups. He paused. And when we come out the other side, this store will be stronger than ever. Emily straightened, a new steadiness in her posture. We're ready. The doors opened right on time. Customers began trickling in, oblivious to the storm that had just passed through. Xavier stayed the entire day, not as a distant overseer, but shoulder to shoulder with his people. He helped restock shelves, explained refunds patiently to confused customers, and quietly replaced outdated signage himself. When the audit team arrived, they blended seamlessly into the workday. No shouting, no dramatic confrontations, just clean, honest correction. By closing time, the store looked no different to the casual eye. But the people inside had changed. As Emily locked the doors, she turned to Xavier. You really meant it, she said. I did, he said simply. Nate pushed a cart full of returns past them, pausing briefly. Thanks for giving a damn, he said, voice rough. Xavier offered a small, tired smile. It's my job. He stayed behind after the others left, walking slowly through the aisles. The scent of paper and old wood filled the air. It smelled like the beginning again. He knew one thing for certain. He would never let distance blind him again. The soul of his company wasn't in spreadsheets or quarterly reports. It was here, between the shelves, in the hands of the people who believed in the magic of what they built each day. And he would fight like hell to protect it. The morning after the audit, Xavier returned before sunrise, parking outside the bookstore and sitting in the quiet for a few minutes. He watched the soft lights flicker on, silhouettes moving inside as employees prepared for another long day. His mind was focused. There was still work to be done if the store was going to heal properly. He pushed through the doors just as Emily was assigning opening tasks. She wore the same cardigan from yesterday, but her posture was different, more grounded, more certain. She caught sight of him and walked over, tucking a pencil behind her ear. We're short again, she said. One of the seasonal hires didn't show. Xavier nodded. We'll work around it. Staffing takes time to fix right. Emily glanced toward the rare book section. The audit team finished late last night. They found over 100 mispriced items. Customers will be contacted today. I'll stay and help with that, Xavier said. It's our responsibility. She hesitated, then said, There's something else. Nate's talking about quitting. Xavier set down his coffee. Where is he? Break room, she said, voice low. Without another word, Xavier walked back, weaving through stocked carts and stacks of incoming shipments. Nate sat at the plastic table, a half-eaten granola bar in front of him. His backpack was slung over one shoulder already. You're thinking about leaving, Xavier said, pulling out a chair. Nate shrugged, not looking up. I appreciate what you're trying to do, really, but I can't afford to gamble on maybe. I've got finals coming up. I can't do another semester like the last one. Xavier folded his hands. You shouldn't have to. Nate shook his head. It's not just the hours, it's feeling like none of it matters, like you're invisible unless you screw up. It matters, Xavier said. You matter. Look, I'm not going to beg you to stay. That's a choice you get to make, but if you give it a little time, you'll see real change here. Nate leaned back, arms crossed. Words are cheap. They are, Xavier agreed, which is why I'm not offering words, I'm offering action. You'll get a guaranteed set schedule, no last-minute changes, no unpaid overtime, and if you want, I'll personally write you a recommendation when you're ready for your next step. Nate studied him for a long moment. Finally, he said, I'll give it a week. Xavier offered his hand. Nate shook it without hesitation. When they stepped back out onto the floor, the store was already buzzing. Emily was helping a mother find children's books, and 2 new hires from corporate's emergency list were being trained at the register. Xavier didn't miss the tense glances employees gave the rare editions display. The damage Austin had done would take time to undo. He pulled Emily aside. Today, I want to set up a customer appreciation table. Free coffee, free bookmarks, maybe some small discounts on paperbacks. We need to rebuild trust, and we start by showing we value them. Emily's eyebrows lifted. We don't usually comp anything. We do today, Xavier said. I'll cover the costs personally until corporate adjusts the budget. She smiled, a quick, genuine flash that hadn't been there before. By noon, the table was set up near the entrance. Customers approached cautiously at first, but once they realized it wasn't a gimmick, the mood shifted. Conversations buzzed louder, smiles came easier. An older man in a tweed jacket accepted a free coffee, chuckling. Not often you see a business admitting when they've made mistakes. Xavier handed him a bookmark with the store's logo embossed on it. We're not perfect, but we're trying to be better. The man nodded approvingly and wandered off toward the history section. Mid-afternoon brought another test. A woman stormed in, clutching a receipt and a rare poetry volume. This book was supposed to be a gift, she said, voice tight with anger. I found out it's worth half what I paid. Emily moved to intervene, but Xavier stepped forward. I'm Xavier Ellington, he said calmly. I'm responsible for this store. Let's fix this. The woman's expression shifted slightly, suspicion flickering in her eyes. I want a full refund, she said. You'll get it, Xavier said, and an apology. He processed the return himself, overriding the system's standard policy. As he handed her the cash, he said, I'm sorry this happened. It wasn't right, and it's not who we are. If you'd be willing to give us another chance, I'd like to offer you a gift card as well. The woman hesitated, then took it silently. She left without another word, but she didn't slam the door on her way out. Small victories, Xavier thought. By evening, the store had a different rhythm. Employees moved with a little more energy, a little more pride. Customers lingered longer. The rare editions section, freshly audited and properly labeled, drew genuine interest instead of wary glances. At closing, Emily gathered the team around the front counter. I just wanted to say, she began, then paused, searching for the right words. Today felt different. Like we're part of something again. There were nods around the group. Nate leaned against a bookshelf, arms loose at his sides instead of crossed defensively. Xavier waited until they finished, then said, This is just the beginning. Tomorrow we keep going, staff meetings once a week. Customer feedback surveys printed and posted where everyone can see them. Open door policy, I mean it. A young woman from the cafe section raised her hand hesitantly. Are we going to get more training? I mean real training, not just watch and learn. Yes, Xavier said. Starting next week, corporate will send a trainer. You'll be paid for all training hours. She smiled, clearly relieved. Another employee, a tall man who had been shelving business books, asked, What happens if another manager acts like Austin? Xavier's expression hardened slightly. Zero tolerance. If you see something, say something, you'll be protected. He meant every word. They had trusted him once without knowing who he was. Now he had to earn it for real. As the team dispersed to finish closing tasks, Emily stayed behind. There's something I wanted to show you, she said, leading him to the bulletin board near the break room. Pinned there among schedules and announcements was a hand-drawn poster. It read, Our store values honesty, respect. passion. Beneath it, someone had written in smaller letters, "And remembering why we love books." Emily looked at him, eyes shining a little. "We made it together this morning, thought we should have something real to look at." Xavier studied the poster for a long moment. "It's perfect," he said finally. Outside, the parking lot was nearly empty. The last sliver of sunset faded over the rooftops. Xavier lingered a minute longer before stepping out into the cooling air. The bookstore behind him wasn't just a place that sold novels anymore. It was a place that stood for something again. And this time, he would never let that slip away.